So I think I should sound at least a little bit better. I do have a snowball microphone. I was about to say a snowball microphone now. I should say I'm using it now. I had it already because back in the halcyon days of 2014 Les Mis Tumblr fandom, ya boy was going to be in a podfic, which for those who are not aware, a podfic is when somebody writes a fan fiction and the general community likes it so much they organize a get-together to record it and produce it as a radio play. So I bought this blue snowball in, I want to say 2014 or 2015, for $20, and I am told they now go for like $60. Got in on the ground floor on that venture, put it in a box and never used it because the podfic didn't happen. This thing has just been carted around with me for the past, holy fuck, how long ago was 2014? Like 8 years? And now it's finally getting used. Everything happens for a reason. What's up?
He's the one who told me to get a snowball.
I'm the one who told him to get a snowball.
I paid full price for this thing.
Because I was like, oh, I remember those being good. I bought one of those.
We were like, it was like back when we did the very first the Hotel Con 2022. Never gonna be released to the public. But I was
It sounds bad!
It sounded really bad. Because he was using his webcam mic, which he's been using up until this episode, and I was using the mic off of my headset. I have a Razer Kraken Ultimate, and it, as you can imagine, it does not have a very good mic.
That's the coolest thing anyone's ever named anything. A Razer Kraken.
Yeah, Razer Kraken Ultimate. Oh, wait until you hear about a Razer Naga Trinity.
Jesus Christ! So hi, welcome to We Like the Hotel. We're doing the season 4 retrospective. Can I just say, open this up by saying, I went back and forth on it for a while. I do think season 4 is my favorite season. It is long as hell, and I love that. The episodes are like 40 minutes. There's 18 of them. This is a lot of hotel. I love every second of it. There's so much more time to, like, dig into the characters and their thoughts and relationships and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, let me sink my teeth into this. Thank you. Do we want to go episode by episode? Do we want to look at, like, major themes? How do we want to do this?
Well, we've been doing well with episode by episode, because when we don't do episode by episode, we end up getting on a lot of tangents.
Case in point.
Can we start from the beginning?
Yeah, let's start from the beginning.
Perry fucking Sherwin.
Perry Sherwin. I love the visuals in this episode with, like, I think the hotel is, like, mostly bright white. Like, the manager and the lobby boy are dressed in white. The lobby boy talks about worrying about getting stains, because the stains in the hotel don't come out.
They don't come out. And all of the descriptions of the hotel's interior, like, deep shimmering purple, so dark it's almost black, but with like the faint speckle of starlight somewhere within the crystal. Oh God, I think it's pretty.
Sherwin in like all black except for the red shoes, and then he's like sinks into the bed and becomes part of the bed because there's no visual distinction between him and the rest of it, and then like the shoes. I don't know. It's gorgeous.
Men who absorb all the light in the room. Men who suck the life out of the room.
This is just such a strong start to the season. It's a really good, solid, like, we're back. Here's what we're here for. Here's a guest dying. Remember how the staff died a bunch? Let's get back to it, folks.
Hold on, I took some notes on this. I want to get us started on the themes of interpersonal connection between the staff in this season a bit early. Because there's something I want to bring up in 4-1 Perry Sherwin. The owner is the one slipping reservation cards to the manager, and this is a season 4 thing. I remember this distinctly after all of those retrospectives, but giving him a tangible role in the running of the hotel beyond just appear, like, glower at the lobby boy, exit, really helps to, like, further the theme of the staff's operations in tandem with each other as cogs in the machine that is the hotel.
Yeah.
And it's a subtle thing, but it makes a big difference. Also, I think Kelly just fucking killed it on the reads in this episode.
Absolutely killed it. It was fantastic.
Fucking destroyed them. Sigh.
I think the owner giving the reservation cards, it's maybe established in the second episode rather than the first. I know we get the card here. Yeah, in the center of the private office door is a slot, and resting on the ledge, I know, is a small card with a name printed on it. Yeah. I'm looking at the transcript.
Yeah. It's my
oh,
point
and there's the thing
stands.
about the point stands, and I think it's good to get into. And there's the thing about the front desk gleaming like an anglerfish lure.
Oh yeah, it does, buddy. You know it does.
Straight up fishy in here.
You know it does. Oh, I love it when women are fish.
Oh, and there's something we said. I re-listen to our episodes a lot. I think we sound very good. There's something we said in, was it the season 3 one, about like the sharkskin hands, her sharkskin hands, and the sharkskin guest book, and like the hotel at its base level being constructed of teeth of something that devours. And then there's also the line about like the white private office door behind me cuts into the wall like a new tooth in a hungry mouth. We've got that continuation going on.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah. This season, like, there is always a meatiness and an organic sense of horror to the hotel that does drive home that this is not a regular building. But season 4 especially does take a lot of that, like, really intense, meaty, organic feeling from season 3 and recontextualizes it with the more the format of the hotel room kind of series format, which I think is really good because they do just start you off with like, hey, this is a hotel, but look a little closer, why don't you?
Maybe don't.
Maybe don't.
It might interrupt their jobs. But this episode specifically, there is a lot of reference to, like, the flesh of the hotel as an entity. It's real meaty, and that's something I miss a lot in later episodes, and you know me. You know exactly why I miss it.
Yes.
I just, it's something that I like. It's something that very much pushes all my buttons.
Yeah, that organicness in this episode even follows through with, it's described, isn't it, that he is swallowed up by the bed. It's described in very organic terms. Like, this is a living organism of a hotel, and he just got absorbed into it like a little male anglerfish.
literally like a male anglerfish.
That's good with the, yeah. And is this also the one, yes, this is also the one where she kind of roasts the guy mercilessly. And she's like, oh, he doesn't know what he is undefined by others? Is that how I want to say it? Like, he needs other people to define himself against. He needs to be superior to them. They need to be doing things for him, or else he doesn't really know who he is. He kind of loses himself. And here he is all alone. Oh no.
Yeah.
He's wearing all black. Darkness is defined by the absence of light. That's all. Thank you. Continue, Jay.
Yeah. He is extremely, like, this is another episode where the death does play into, I think, the descriptions of the guest and the personality, where he is, like you say, he is playing the part of darkness. He is only defined by that which around him, you know, has an effect. And so his death he is absorbed, he is gone. There is no distinction between him and what's around him because he has no distinct self, without people doing things for him and without that kind of effect. So it is again one of those ones where the death feels quite pointed in pointing something out about this man, which I do enjoy.
I love the tailored deaths. They're absolutely luscious every time we get one. They're like a good meal to me.
Yeah, it like, coming from it as like a big fan of horror movies as well, it is reminiscent in a way of like, especially because this guy does get sucked into the bed. It's reminiscent in a way of Nightmare on Elm Street rules a little bit, and how the nightmares are kind of a little tailored to you. It has a nip of that vibe, which I enjoy.
Really strong start for the season, I would say. One of those episodes, and if you'll allow me, that you can just kind of sink into.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one, actually. Everyone clap.
Yay!
Yippee!
Yay!
Yeah, it is a very good tonal start, that episode. It really sets the season up. It gives you what to expect tonally. It's a fantastic, strong start. I'm ready to go into the next if you guys want.
It's a very, it's reminiscent of Harold Pike in a sense. And I can do 4-2 now.
I really like 4-2. You can probably tell why. It's one that I enjoyed well enough on the first listen, and then when I was going through the season again a while later, I was like, ooh, the owner and the hotel are doing this one. That's fun.
You're hilarious.
I'm very funny. I really like getting the owner's point of view in this, especially because, this is the one where they establish he's the one filling out the reservation cards. We got the card in 4-1, and now we see him filling it out. And yeah, that's really interesting that he gets this kind of direct connection to the staff now. He's got something that he's doing other than just walking around grumbling. He has a little job. This is very nice. He does his job well. I bet his handwriting is lovely. But it also feels very much like it works really well for his character that his job is something very small, very bureaucratic, that they could run the hotel without it and it wouldn't be that much of a problem. It would be a little awkward for the manager to try to figure out, like, who is the guest and how do we get them in here. Like, she likes having the name, she likes this kind of extra little official flourish, but it's not really necessary. It is the kind of job you give to the CEO's kid just so they have something cushy to do. You know, it fits very well for him as well, which I adore. So I like that he gets that.
I do like that this is a job where it does allow him to have the big-headedness of, I'm bringing the cards. Everything wouldn't work if I wasn't bringing the cards, and everyone else can just think to themselves, we could get them another way, but sure, feel important.
He has to feel so important at all times. He has to be the specialist little princess in the hotel.
He's my special little princess.
He is your special little princess.
And then he has this thing where he's like going over, this is what the manager does. She has her little route that she goes on. This is really striking to me. He knows what she does. He knows her routine. And the fact that she's so, like, regular with it that you can predict what she's going to do. I guess I never thought of her as predictable, even though she does keep to, like, a schedule. She is very much like, okay, we have to do this and this and this. But the idea that, like, I guess just the idea that somebody else would be observing the manager when she so often feels like the one who is watching everything going on. That's what the owner's introduced to do from the beginning is audit, but he never feels that concerned about the manager. He's like, okay, she's doing whatever. This lobby boy, though, I've got to keep an eye on him.
And it's totally not for the sake of his own ego.
Totally not for the sake of his own ego.
He's not just preening. Impossible. Him? Never.
Him? Never.
Couldn't be
and
him.
When he feels this connection with the guest, where I feel like he does... Yeah, he says, caught like Susan Broduer. He's like, and in a sense, am I not also trapped within this hotel? And just waiting for the next thing to happen. How much power do I truly have?
Yes, this is something that I will get into more later on, because it really comes into its own after a couple more episodes. But this season plays so much into the recognition of the staff noticing things about themselves and mirroring things that they are feeling through the guests, like on an emotional level and about their situation, which I think is fascinating about them. And that's one of the points where it first comes through is him using her as, like, a descriptor of how he is also feeling and him having thoughts on that, the comparison there.
And then she just squeezes the wall of the office in a little, just for fun.
Hashtag girl.
Hashtag girl. Give him something to think about. Give him something to pout about. Oh god, I love her.
What is he without something to pout about? Nothing. Nothing! A husk where a man once was if he doesn't have something to complain about.
This is a really fun setup for the episode. I just like, he's pouting.
I mean, this episode did things to me my first time around listening. Because, like we've said in past episodes, we get the hotel narrating in season 2, but she shows up before and after and also in return. We get the hotel narrating in season 3, but she shows up at the tail end. And We don't get much insight into her mind, as much as we can possibly get. But this episode, the first time around, I don't read the descriptions when I go into an episode normally. Well, I didn't at that point. I do now, because I'm a freak of nature. But going into this episode, I didn't know we were going to get the hotel narrating. So listening to it the first time, I think you can imagine what happened to me mentally.
Little surprise treat of, oh, here she is.
Little surprise treat of, good God, woman!
And I like that, I think you pointed this out, Niall, in the discussion. Yeah. As if I'd let anyone else come in and disturb her, but disturbed she is anyway. The, protectiveness that the hotel has over the guests once they enter, she is going to kill them.
That's her job.
She's going to kill them. Nothing else is going to touch them, because now they're hers.
As if anything else could touch them, hypothetically.
As if anything else could touch them.
It's not even a possibility, but hey, you gotta be prepared.
Yeah, and I really like this episode. The tone is so well set, and Susan's, attitude, really feels like it. The sense of fear is very sort of realistic in a way that resonates in a oh, this is scary way. This is I know the pattern of how this person is acting and what's going on is done really, really well. And I really love the way the hotel reacts and interacts with this, in that she is well, no, that thing you're afraid of isn't gonna get you in here. You're mine now. And that interesting protective possessiveness of, no, this is her person now. It's by her rules that you're gonna go out. And it's just fascinating.
It's incredibly fascinating.
This is a murder hotel that has almost a fondness for the people that she is accepting into her labyrinth of death.
And and again, this feels like a death tailored to the guest, where her, the trauma that has her continuously pacing the room and checking the locks and all of this, it feels crushing and claustrophobic even before the walls start closing in.
Yes.
It feels very much the hotel says, pacing the room endlessly and endlessly, trapped in her own behavior, her conscious thoughts buried under a burning wave of the fear and trauma that chased her from her home in the dead of night. Oh, and then, of course, she ended up here, and we have fears and traumas of our own for her. I love that little addition.
She's gotta be silly about it just a little bit.
She's gotta be silly about it a little bit.
To Susan, the room might as well have already been like that.
Yeah.
It's not, she doesn't even, freak out over the room getting smaller and smaller. She's busy. She's worrying about other things. She doesn't even notice.
Yeah. Shit.
She's worried about other things. And that's literally just what trauma does to you.
Yeah, and this episode, it's one of those ones where when that, section that, the cornerstone of the episode kicks in and you're hearing about her, pacing and stuff, it's one of them that makes me jittery. It makes me want to pace, because it puts you in that headspace so well, which is, I think really well done, without it going into too much of a description of something that would be very, very heavy. It puts you in this, sense of being watched and not knowing what's coming next and having to constantly check. And, the fact that that, Susan... Rooms have felt like this room for her before. This isn't the hotel is just making this into something physical. It is a tailored death in that it's taking the claustrophobic feeling of that nervous, tense feeling and being well, what if the walls really were closing in? What if this did become too heavy? And it's a juicy episode. It's a good one.
Susan's one of my favorite guests. I gotta say that.
Susan should have made it onto my top 10 guest ranking.
She is so incredibly sympathetic. And we never get to hear a word out of her.
Yeah, it's an episode that really does, she's a guest that we don't spend that much time knowing on a personal connection level, and yet she feels incredibly human.
She's real to me.
Yeah. She's very good.
And we never get, an exact read on what exactly happened to her, but I do love the repeated mention of that kitchen knife. Because, when you've got a traumatic memory, there's always that one thing that sticks out.
Like a knife?
like a knife.
And even at the end, like, she doesn't break the cycle in her mind, and then she is crushed by the room, but it really feels like, oh yeah, and right at the end, she tries to start her little cycle around the room, but the room has finally got itself around her.
Baby girl,
so,
your
yeah,
legs
even
are
in that
broken.
Way, she's lost in her own head. She doesn't even notice.
Yes, this episode, I think, is a really good example of horror in general, of doing a real fear, but leaving it open enough so that you, as the listener, can ruminate on it in a way that makes it scary for you, because it is very open-ended what has happened to Susan and what is happening now, and what she is thinking about, and of course that then opens up your mind to apply something on. Which is a really effective way of doing horror, because most times the unknown is more terrifying than the explained, and when you're put into watching or listening to horror that does play with that, having it give you an unknown real horror makes it really bone-chilling, because you can fill in a million possibilities, and then are confronted with the actual description of this woman is being crushed, and you don't know which thing is worse or scarier, which is, I think, really lends itself to the palpable dread kind of fear of this episode.
It's entirely better that death is a better ending for her than whatever she had waiting for her at home.
Yeah, it's a scary one. It's like a very...
It's visceral in a way that not a lot of hotel episodes are. It's personal.
Yeah.
The horrors are very personal.
I think also, and this thought isn't fully developed, but it's something that does poke in the back of my mind. I listen to a lot of horror, and I try out a lot of horror podcasts, because I'm always looking for something new to sink my teeth into. And some of them, and I don't want to, like, be disparaging, so I'm not going to, like, say specifics. Some of them sometimes try to do a real fear, like a real thing that can happen to you that's very scary and very bad, and it comes across... It's not entertaining to listen to in a horror sense. Entertaining in a horror sense is always a little weird to get, because I like to be scared, but in specific ways. I don't like to be scared in certain ways. If you scare me a certain way, it's not good and I don't like it. But I do want to be scared. Strike that balance somehow. And, what scares me and what is not fun to be scared by, for me, is not universal, and I'm not saying anything's bad for writing a certain thing. But a lot of horror stuff that I've listened to tries to do a real thing, rather than, like, here's a spooky monster, or here is a death that could not conceivably happen to you, and does it poorly in a sense that's not very fun to listen to. In a way that is like, well, this is just makes me uncomfortable, and not in a way I enjoy sitting with. And Susan Broduer could have gone into that very easily with, like, the abuse stuff, and it didn't. I think it skirted it in a way that was... The word coming to mind is respectful, which I don't know if that's quite how I mean
Tasteful.
But tasteful, yes. It was tasteful, and I think it was done really well. Thank you.
This is kind of a soapbox thing with horror in general for me. And this isn't a definitive opinion. Obviously, everyone has their own thoughts and feelings on horror. But for me, horror is all about being scared safely. It's about haunted house style fear, where you can be afraid, but you know you have an out, and you know that it can't hurt you. And I think some horror that, like, is trying to do something, and I respect it for that, does handle topics in a way that unfortunately does not become a safe fear. It becomes one that feels a bit locked in and is handled in ways that don't have the respect and tastefulness that I think this episode does, because it does almost have a kindness to it. This episode is brutal, but the way Susan is handled feels like there is a kindness to the writing around this subject. Which does then make it a haunted house horror, safe horror, where it's like you have an out, this is scary, but it can't hurt you kind of thing, if that makes sense.
What my thing with horror is, it's important to go into the way I interact with horror media, knowing that I don't usually get scared by things. I don't go into horror media wanting to be scared. I go into horror media wanting to explore a concept. I want to sink my teeth into something. I want to rip something apart and organize it into neat little piles and figure out what each little pile could mean and then try and shove it back together into something that looks kind of like what it was originally, but probably isn't. I like to explore things, and I like when those things are left open-ended. I like when these things are given room to breathe. I don't like it when things are over-explained, made too close to reality if it's not the piece of media that has its roots in reality. I feel like things can get a little too personal, a little too close for comfort to just stuff that happens in the real world, and leaving those gaps in what's explained, leaving the listener, leaving the reader to fill that hole in for themselves, whether it's like an aspect of ooh spooky monster or an aspect of handling such a rough subject as abuse like this episode does. Leaving those gaps can be way more beneficial than a lot of people realize, because it's like putting filler in a hot dog. It can't all be beef, and that's fine.
I think that's a really good and really thorough and I would say very relatable way to talk about the subject for sure. I would agree with I think everything you've just said there. And it also rings true for me that in some cases, I don't go to horror to be scared, but to explore things. And I think a lot of genres, I think horror is more open to exploring more things than most genres. I think there's already an expectation that what's going to happen is beyond your comfort zone, and it's going to get weird and difficult, and that's like par for the course. I think you can also explore things that are way out of the ordinary in other genres too, like sci-fi, for example. Yeah. But I think horror is often frequently set up for the purpose of like, well, what would happen if? And get really fucking weird with it. Which is why I love sci-fi horror a bunch too, because that shit gets wild.
I feel like horror has less of an expectation to explain everything about itself put on it. Because, people know that the mystery is scarier than the monster. But, yes. And I don't know why I said but when I was going to continue that thought. Fantasy and sci-fi are amazing for getting to explore a concept. I love magic systems. I love world building. But if something is explained a little bit too in-depth, it can really lose a lot of the magic, because if you're going to do something within that world, the more you know about it, the easier it is to feel constrained by those things. If you give yourself too many guidelines to work with, you end up limiting yourself in ways that can be detrimental to the work and your work as a whole.
There's an example, and I'm going to pull a specific one, but it's from Doctor Who, so I don't mind doing this because this isn't like a small project or anything. So this is my thing with horror. There is a concept in Doctor Who called the Weeping Angels. They are statues that kill you, but they can only move when you're looking at them. So they are set up in an episode called Don't Blink, and you'll never guess what you have to not do.
No way.
Is it Blink?
It's You Don't Blink. Oh my god. Very smart. So that's you do get a cookie.
Yay!
It's got Smarties in it.
Anyway. Wait, it's got, oh right, you're British.
American, the British ones, chocolate ones. Don't even worry about it.
Sixlets here.
Anyway, so that episode builds a very frightening monster because it has... we don't know why it does this. We don't know how, the technicalities of how it works. We just know we don't blink. We have to look at them. They are then later brought on in a couple of series after, years and years after they bring them back. And now they build more rules. They're like, well, you can't stare at them too long because they get in your eye, so you have to not blink, but also look away enough. And for me... And I am deeply sorry to anyone who does like this concept. That is entirely fine and valid. We are all allowed our own opinions on, monsters and TV shows. I hate it because I think it explains them. I think it overcomplicates them. And I think it takes the fear away by adding too many mechanics. And that is a thing that I think is true in a lot of horror. I think sometimes just having, like you say, that space to breathe, that openness, the gaps in between, the mystery really does work well for horror.
If it bleeds, we can kill it. So make sure the reader doesn't know if it can bleed or not.
If you can bleed, something can kill you, maybe, but my husband, that which glowers, cannot be killed, and he does bleed.
If it bleeds, you might be able to kill it. There's this one lady. We've been having problems with her.
If it bleeds, it's just gonna get all over the goddamn place.
You're gonna have to mop that up.
Susan Broduer is a really good episode.
Susie. She's a Susan to me.
She's a Susan to me. She's like a Susan to me.
She's just like a Susan to me.
Do we have further thoughts?
I didn't. I'm just excited to talk about the Habers.
I would like to talk about the Habers.
That's what happened with the Habers.
Somebody else to lead off talking about the Habers, because I'm very aware I've been talking a lot.
Jay, I think it's your turn. I talk a lot too.
Okay, I think I'm now going to get into my big thing, and I'm sorry to everyone. For context, we have a discussion topics channel where we put things we want to talk about in episodes, and I wrote an essay in there.
I was going to ask you to read this verbatim, and I would like you to read this verbatim, unless you're going to do something else. But this is just me saying I'm very excited for this.
There is a thing in this season that deeply seems to be about human connection and the interplay of relationships. And by that, I don't necessarily mean romantic. I think it is more often about familial and work relationships and just how we forge any kind of connection with our fellow human beings. The way guests are spoken about, there is this interesting mirroring of emotions with the staff. Like, a lot of episodes this season, the staff talk about themselves in comparison to the guests, or talk about emotions with the guests in this not quite right. It's almost like the staff are trying to comprehend things about humanity and emotions and relationships through the guests, but don't quite get it. Like, this comes through in this episode with the way the manager sees the Havers' love and the way she talks about it. And sorry, I'm jumping about while I read. There's also going to be something when we get to AJ Taylor and Wayne as well. It comes up there again. But this season does feel like, to steal Niall's analogy of the decoy ducks, it feels like this is the point where the decoy ducks are developing something complex within themselves and they don't quite comprehend it yet. The way the manager talks about the Havers' love, and she does sort of pick up on things. She notices the way the smile dims and stuff like that, and the way she kind of reads it at first is as, I think, a one-sided relationship where one loves the other more than the other loves them. And I think it's because she's trying to understand love, which is it's a concept that maybe she doesn't have full context or like understanding of in a certain way because she is not human. So the way she reads it is like slightly off and slightly twisted. And obviously we never get direct confirmation of the way the Havers feel about each other, but it does then later when she's talking about it move to, oh, maybe the smile just fades when they're not looking at each other. Maybe it's their happiest in this moment. And I believe she talks about like being almost like being a different person depending on where you are and who you're with. Like, she touches a little bit on that. And what this makes me think about is I have this analogy in my head of, say you took a snowman, like, and you gave it sentience and the capacity for some emotion, but maybe not the exact capacity or the same emotion as a human would have. How would it then comprehend seeing emotion and connection in humans, and what happens when it reflects that upon itself? Can it recognize itself in the other, or does it kind of fall apart, you know, in the difference and the bridge between? Because, like, this is not a human person. The staff are not human. They are the hotel's little lights who have been twisted into these shapes and given roles, and they have to act human, and they are like given these roles to play, but they are not human technically. And and I don't know whether this capacity for recognizing the self through the other and this capacity for understanding love and emotion and connection is a deliberate thing, or if this is a sort of convergent evolution of emotion, where the staff were not built to understand these, but have just evolved over time. Everything comes to like similar conclusions if it's sentient, maybe. And they're not really built to have a human experience, but they have ended up with feelings and emotions comparable, to being human. Like, can they feel love? Is it just a mimicry? Do they know the difference? Like, does the difference even matter? And I'm trying to think of like how to make this my closing thought and tie it back into the episode, because I just really like theories upon psychology and applying that to beings that are not human and seeing how that affects them. But there is just a sense that a lot of season 4 reflects the fact that the staff are starting to explore connection and relationships. They're like, even the antagonisticness of the owner is becoming less of just a hate thing and more he is exploring like his connection within the staff. They talk about the lobby boy in this episode and how he feels things, and it's like, well, does he even know what he's feeling? Does he understand this? And it's just very good. I am rambling a little bit, but if you guys can make more concise points on this,
the
feel
lobby
free.
boy experiences emotions the way that drinking green apple LaCroix is like drinking is like eating an apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good season for relationships in general. For like, it's I think especially the thing with the dual narrators, like just the way the whole thing is set up allows for better exploration of what people think and feel about each other, especially because then you can contrast it. You can go, well, here's this character's thoughts on the situation and the other people that they're in it with, and now we can give you this flip side view, and you can compare and contrast those directly because they're about the same thing. It's moving on from one, like, it's not, the timeline is like, okay, we get the beginning with this character and then we end with this character. They're not reacting to the exact same events because it's like we keep moving forward in the timeline, but it's still so interesting just to see like the different points of views laid directly next to each other.
Yeah, and it does open up the window to like seeing different viewpoints on the staff and the guests, in that you do get two people's opinion and how they see them, and it does vastly vary. Especially when you get the hotel having an opinion, because boy, does she have some.
She has
He
some
has
opinions.
the best opinions in this show.
Yeah, she has the whole paragraph. The lobby boy's love is no secret to anyone here except the happy couple. His love isn't like theirs, though. His is so twisted and so simple. I'm not sure he's even aware of it as love. Poor thing doesn't feel many feelings, just fairly basic ones, I think. Or he feels them in a simpler way, or maybe he feels nothing at all. They're dim, simple things, all the little lights inside me. Yeah, like you're saying about if he feels love, it's a much dimmer version of it, but it's still love in a way. It's still a feeling that, like, a thing that is made ostensibly just to kill shouldn't necessarily feel. They're developing these feelings and these thoughts about each other, and they're grappling with them, and they're like, well, I'm not supposed to have this, I don't think, but I am feeling it, so now what do I do?
Yeah, and having that happen while there are guests there, that these creatures who do not have the capacity for the language to describe potentially what they're feeling or know what these emotions are, to look at guests and be like, is that what I'm feeling? Is that the same? And there being like a slight disconnect there, so you get a really interesting look into how they understand it, and you can clearly see the way they understand emotion and connection is through the lens of a horror creature, where they're like making it a little fucked up kind of thing.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
It's gotta be.
Emotion is such a subjective thing. Sometimes I think about the fact that we can't like ever really know what other people's life experiences are like. And sometimes I think about that a little too hard, and I have to listen to the Macarena for like a couple minutes to calm down. But it's reminiscent of that, but in a horror context, in a creature beast context, where it's like approximating, trying to compare your own experience to something vastly different without really knowing the full extent of what that experience is.
Yeah. And it's so cool that this is like the cornerstone for a lot of what happens later, I think, with the staff. Like, I think a lot of the owner's frustration in later episodes are because he cannot connect to the other staff. And he's starting to feel like he should be able to. And then things develop with the manager, like, starting to feel protective and, like, having more of a thing where, like, the staff and the having them all there is important. And there are those connections sprouting up the more they start to understand that, like, they can have this, like, strange workplace familial bond with one another. Which the owner doesn't often get to take part in, because he is a big grumpy bird man who does not... He has something about him that is stopping him from connecting with this...
He is so...
The toxic masculinity.
He is so detached.
The toxic masculinity.
It's borderline comical.
And then their death is fucking horrific.
Yeah. We haven't talked at all about the death. I just realized.
This episode has a lot to pick apart in relationships and how people think about each other and interact with each other. And I love the manager's little, like, is Sammy actually not into Randy as they appear to be, or is it that they're happier when they're looking at each other? You know, it's hard to tell what the difference is. You can't really know what's going on in someone else's head. They are now going to turn into stuffed animals.
Yes!
Their mouths will fill with sawdust and their eyes will roll out of their head, pushed out by imitations.
There's a lot of stuff about perception this episode, the way others perceive you. The way your perceptions can, like, your perception of emotion, something warping. I couldn't formulate a thought there, but it was there.
It was there, yeah.
And I do think this could also be a thematic death in a sense with regard to perception, because when something is taxidermied, it is done that way so to be preserved and perceived for a longer period than would otherwise be possible. It is a display. It is to be put on display. It is there for others to perceive. It is performative.
It is very much, I think as well, the death for me has a dual thing with it, where the fact the taxidermy is like, you are made to look alive, but you are not. Taxidermied animals are usually frozen in a pose that makes them feel like they could move at any point. There is a specific art form to doing taxidermy, where you want this animal to look like it is still a living thing with muscle that is moving and is aware. Usually kept... most taxidermy tends to have them in, like, an aggressive pose, like with a lot of predator taxidermy. It will be like it's about to pounce or it's hunting.
There was a cougar.
There is a fucking cougar. And I think that having a little bit of a parallel with the fact the staff are this season, you know, it is made very apparent that they are not alive and yet appear to be, because those fuckers be rotting.
Wouldn't it be fun if the Habers were still aware, though?
It would be fun and fucked up.
It would be really fun, I think.
Taxidermy is made to combat the rot. It's made to take this thing that is supposed to rot and return to the earth and make it like, you're this forever. You're preserved forever. You'll never rot or die. I mean, I think, like, eventually they will. But it's meant to preserve them in a way that the staff cannot be, because they're actively being turned into little piles of bones.
Yes. It really does point out the fact they do have although it is temporary, the staff do have a mortality and a recognition of death in themselves. Or even though they will come back the next day and the hotel will be like, hoo, round 2. But they do have a death that, and I think if we read into, I think I mentioned it last retrospective, the idea that the guests are kept in the rooms in that constant state of dying forever, like that theory, I do think, you know, it's an interesting parallel you could pull there of the staff get release and get death and the guests maybe don't.
I think it's fun when the guests get frozen a little bit. Yippee for Ted Barrow.
Yippee for Ted Barrow.
He's my best
This
friend.
is something I went a little insane about on Twitter a couple weeks ago. I don't remember which episode it is, which is kind of killing me, but the owner has a line that goes like, how many more times can we die? As always, at least once more. And I just cannot stop thinking about how death is used in this show, how they are creatures of death who deal in death, who deal out death to all who meet them, who meet a fleeting, temporary death at the end of the night in the most painful and miserable way possible, slowly rotting to pieces until their bodies can't hold themselves together and they collapse to the floor of the place they occupy. And then, like, they're paid in death. Their repayment at the end of the night for doing this is to die for a moment. For a brief, fleeting moment, they know the void and the unconsciousness, I guess, of death, and then they're back to it. Then it's back to it the next night. They don't even get rest from that, I don't think. It drives me a little bonkers cuckoo crazy to think about.
It is. Oh, it's so good. The way the series plays with death. Death is not the end, but death is everything. It's just like, ooh, there's a lot in there. Yeah!
You don't get to die!
Death is something the mortuary industry made up to sell more coffins.
So true. God said you don't get to die. God said, sweep my floors, boy. and I think about that a lot. It'd be fucked up if the Habers were still conscious.
It would.
Anyways, that's my headcanon now.
I forget a lot about... I was about to move on to 4-4. I don't know if we're ready for that.
I'm ready for that. I'm trying to figure out things to say.
Yeah, I forget a lot about 4-4, except the thing that stands out in my mind, which is the lobby boy was like, what if this was what the hotel looked like? And then it was what the hotel looked like, and Geoff and the owner are like, this sucks. What a weird room. Why is it like this? Okay, fine. Gross. Yeah. He was right, and it was bad.
Oh, is this like the first inkling of the lobby boy having an influence?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, he imagined a room and she went, okay.
Keep going.
She went, oh, that sounds fun.
She's like, this sucks, but you're trying it. You're trying it.
He's a creative little guy. He's got his own ideas.
He's got his own ideas. He's trying them out. This is also one where the owner is like, I need hands-on experience. I'm going to stand in this room and die with the guest. When we get, like we're talking about with the relationship thing, with the, like, feeling kinship with the guests in a way and what they're going through, he's literally like, let me see what it's like.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need his flesh that much. Horrifying statement and sentiment.
Hey, you don't get to say shit about that.
It is so very much like this is the season where they start like being like, oh, these are people at the guests, like, and of course they know they're people, but that sudden recognition of, oh, you're a like sentient being. That's interesting. I want to know what happens now. Like the owner does want to sit there and die with the guest to understand anything. Like, what the fuck is going on?
This man willingly got eaten by swarms of thousands of beetles.
Fun ones.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and call me. Okay, never mind.
I need hundreds of thousands of beetles delivered to my house immediately for my purposes.
Is he okay, do you think?
Oh, no.
I think he's fine.
I think he might be a little... Men will literally be eaten by swarms of thousands of beetles instead of going to therapy.
Hey, it's not like he can find a therapist. Travis, next bonus episode.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
I just want a series of vignettes of the staff going to therapy.
Oh, didn't we say this already? They would just fuck up a therapist. This is my new hotel OC, the psychologist. They last one episode, they die.
Hey, my guy thought the eternal cycle was just one day. Oh, he mad. You're coming back, buddy. Eventually.
When you work a job like that, like counselor and therapist and stuff, you have what's called like a supervisor, which is literally someone you go to have kind of therapy with, where you talk about like the effect the job is having on you. God help that psychologist supervisor.
Who therapizes the therapists? Wow.
It's literally a job you get paid to do.
I won't miss my flesh as much as he will, and this is exactly the first-hand experience I was thinking. These are lines that play in my head on repeat.
I mean, he's just gonna get new meat.
Sangsicated is a good word also. I'm looking at the transcript right now. Sangsicated? God damn. What thesaurus do you have, and where can I get a copy? And then he gets his little bitchy jab in at the end, because the guy was talking the whole time they were in the elevator, and the owner was like, oh my god, I hate you so much, please die. And he's like, I turn what's left of Mr. Cooper over in my bony hands, contemplating what he might have to say about this. I'm just imagining him, like, using the guy's skull like a little hand puppet and going, ew, no, I've been murdered.
Very owner. Thank you. I've needed that in my day.
He's just moving the jawbone like, oh, blah, blah, blah.
He has to get his fun somewhere.
He needs some kind of enrichment.
He's a little bit bitchy, and we love him for that.
I love him
He's
for that.
just a little sucks man.
I do love the fact that he, like, hates this guy for talking so much, and it's like, buddy, you like, monologue non-stop. He's like, oh, this is so annoying. Everyone else is like, yeah? You don't say?
No way.
And when he's like, he gets in the elevator, I nod lightly and smile pleasantly, and as we step onto the elevator, I wonder if the hotel is making them run slower than usual. You know she is. You know she saw him do this and was like, oh, you want hands-on experience with the guest? You're gonna get some experience. I think these elevators are gonna go half speed. Does that sound right to you? Yes, it does, thank you.
Love her just talking to herself. I felt that. She's just like me, for real.
She's just like me, for real.
She's just like me, for real.
This is also a really good episode because, I set his heavy bags down easily at the door to unlock it for him. He takes the bag, but I'm not finished yet. I sweep into the room behind him, towering over him. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of that.
You like a big man.
Is he really big and really strong? Is he? Really? You promise? Thank you.
He's a really big dude, apparently. I don't know. I wouldn't know.
I have this fan service. It's there.
He makes a point of it,
and it's literally a man being huge.
Like, I'm literally. Do you know the text post that's like the demon? I have come to take your soul. Me. Oh my god! How tall are you? With the horns, you're so funny. That's me.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
That's me, but specifically with buildings that kill people.
45 foot with the towers. Oh my god, you're so silly.
With the steeple?
With the radio tower?
Goodness gracious, with the mandatory red light for all buildings over 200 feet?
Yeah.
You're so funny.
You're so funny. Did you know
I would be twirling my hair if I had hair to twirl.
Did you know that the Tower of Terror at Disney World, my beloved the Hollywood Tower Hotel, is very, very slightly under 200 feet? Because if it were 200 feet tall, there would need to be a blinking red light at the top to avoid low-flying aircraft, and that would ruin the ambiance of this spooky haunted hotel. So there isn't one, because it's slightly under 200 feet.
No way. Couldn't they have made it ghost-shaped?
They could have made it ghost-shaped. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
She had a red light on top of her in AJ Taylor and Wayne.
Oh, she absolutely did. That
Very
thing
funny
sparkled.
Of her. And the lobby boy doesn't get let out of his closet in this one, does he? He opens the door. Oh no, he does get let out. He opens the door and the owner immediately puts him back in.
Yeah. I mean,
takes one look at that ridiculous navy and khaki outfit and is like, get in the closet.
Out.
Get back in there.
Out of my sight. Immediately. Disgusting.
Literally. Just shoving him in there like, fuck off. No.
You suck. You suck. You're so sucks.
You're cringe and fail. Go in the closet.
Cringe, fail, little man, die.
L ratio, you're wearing khaki.
L plus ratio plus your little hat is off center.
L plus ratio plus you are dripping all over the floor. But yeah, I think that might be all I have to say about
I want to talk about the New Year's episodes. I want to talk about the New Year's episodes. I want to talk about the New Year's episodes. I want to talk about the New Year's episodes. I want to talk about the New Year's episodes.
So let's go to 4-7 now.
I'm going to strangle you to death.
Let's talk about the New Year's episode.
Yes!
E.K. Dagenfield does just a great job. I really enjoy it.
Anyways, 4-7.
So moving on. You. I love the setup of this where we get his point of... No, wait. What is it? No. We get the manager first. We get, like, the staff's point of view on the whole thing. And then we get it all again from him. That's really fun.
Yeah, it's like we get each staff perspective multiple times in this episode, which is novel. It's new and novel, and I like it. I like it a lot. 4, 5, and 4, 6 have to be some of my favorite episodes in the series, just for how much they, like, screw with the format, and you know I love a callback.
Sometimes they're so good that you just go, ooh. And also, I love whenever we have an episode where it's like, is there something already up with a guest? And the New Year's episodes are extremely like that. Like, hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
God, and I really like that from the staff's point of view, they don't rot until like the very end of the episode, but from Rob's point of view, they're like rotting the entire time he's there except for when he dies where they're all perfectly intact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It really
You go.
It really emphasizes like the fact that you can't necessarily trust what you're seeing in the hotel to be the one true thing that's going on. There is like an element of, yeah, this place is going to play with what you see. Everyone's perception's going to be a little off, even the staff's. And it's like, that's cool. That's cool to tell.
Perception in the hotel is just like a slider and a character creation thing.
And the hotel is wiggling it back and forth.
All the way to the left, all the way to the right. Back again.
Take it back now, y'all.
One hop this time.
Yeah, it's really fun to get, like, he shows up and he's fucking weird. He's, like, answering the manager's questions oddly. He's looking around all weird. He starts just, like, screaming. It's like, he's seeing something they can't, which especially for the manager is bizarre because, you know, as we've said a couple times, she doesn't like that. She sees everything that happens in the hotel. She has a supposedly in my reading. I should say my reading. I shouldn't speak for everyone here.
No, I said supposedly because of this episode. Not because of my own headcanon. It aligns.
It aligns. But yeah, this is a little bit of a break for her where she's not able to fully comprehend what's going on with him, which is unusual and maybe off-putting.
Yeah. Problem for her.
Problem for her. Skill issue.
Literally skill issue. Gill issue. Gill issue.
Gill issue. Gill issue.
Yes! Oh my god, I did it!
We did it, boys.
Pack it up, end of the episode.
Oh god.
Diagnosis gill issue.
There we go.
The skeleton appears. It's the owner.
Speaking of, this is the episode with my 4-6 is my episode with my favorite line in hotel history.
Say it.
Deep sea creature of a woman.
Deep sea creature of a woman.
Yeah. Lines that would shape my entire perception of this show. Anyways.
I think the owner gets described as wearing like a gold shirt, which is very cute. He's fancy and festive for New Year's. He's pretty for New Year's.
Got all prettied up.
Mwah.
Something I really like about this set of episodes actually is the incredible aesthetic of it. And I think a lot of it is like, it does feel different because, you know, you bring EK on to be doing, like, a narrative piece, which is a little different than other episodes are narrated. And to me, how this all feels is this two-parter is very reminiscent to me of, like, Twilight Zone-esque older horror. It has this black and white vibe to it, even though things are described in color, but, like, the aesthetic of older black and white, like, horror pieces where your narrator's a little bit weird and he maybe has, like, he can see things and stuff like that. Like,
wouldn't that be fucked up? This is the Twilight Zone.
Fucked up? Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fucked up?
But it is just such a, like, it's a perfect feeling for the New Year's special. It is a perfect aesthetic to put it in. Everyone's dressed up all fancy. Nothing's quite how it usually is. There's a countdown that made me jump the first time I listened to this episode because I am a little scared chihuahua of a man in a nervous vest, and every time it happened I jumped, even though it had happened several times before and you would think I'd got used to it. But
call them
no.
number jump scares
me. Yeah. Also, it's fun that that's the fandom.
Yeah. The countdown channel is still in the big hotel server. Oh, I was gonna say, I love that Robert's first assumption upon encountering the manager, seeing her actively rotting, is, oh, this must be a fancy dress party.
Yeah. Because it goes into that whole thing, like I think in season 1 it was more directly confronted. How do you deal with the horrors? How do you deal with something outside of your perception, or outside of your expectations even? I think about Eric Brune a lot, and how he just kind of pretends it's not happening because maybe it will leave him alone.
Maybe he
can't
can't
we don't
even
get
see
that
it.
explicitly. Maybe he can't even see it.
That's how I always interpreted it.
I like to think he was just like, well, maybe if I pretend it's not here, it won't get me. And then it does. I find it really interesting, how do you deal with a thing that is so outside of your ability to comprehend or handle, kind of a cosmic horror type of sitch. So the thing that he's like, I have got to rationalize this or else. And we see what the or else is at the end.
We sure do.
We really see what the or else is. I like
that he thinks the guest voices are like maybe guiding angels at one point. When we get into that, he's like, these must be, angels who are protecting me from the demons that run this place. And it's like, no!
He's trying really hard, okay? He did his best. He
should have done better.
That's another thing actually that leads into like this one feeling like that older like Twilight Zone-esque horror to me, is the fact he has this whole thing of he's putting a sort of a good and bad / light and dark kind of logic onto things, and he's like, oh, there's angels and demons, like there's a guiding good force in the supernatural, like that older kind of idea of like, oh, these spirits can be good and can be my guiding light, and these spirits are evil and are trying to drag me to hell. That added onto it, I think, is really good for the whole aesthetic of this two-parter.
These spirits want my number.
I love getting to see his attempts to logically understand and like rationalize everything just get worse and worse throughout the 2 episodes until he is like fucking throwing a glass at the owner and is just like, fuck this.
Just like in Let's Leave by Ida Maria.
Just like in Let's Leave by Ida Maria.
I like that for a while he considers the lobby boy his partner in fear. When the lobby boy's just looking at him like, what is wrong with this guest?
The lobby boy like sprints down the hallway. He wants to get this guy in his room and be done with this so much.
That's not his partner in fear.
Bob is like, this is my guy, my good cheese, my sweet soldier, whatever the line from What We Do in the Shadows is. I haven't seen it. And the lobby boy is like, get this freak away from me.
Yeah, he's like, my cream cheese, my good time boy. And the lobby boy's like, I don't know you.
That's my purse, I don't know you.
That's my purse, I don't know you.
And I really like the interplay we get in the, okay, so full transparency, putting this out here, I had to stop listening to this episode on the first time I went through it because the number of jump scares were getting to me. It was a little much. So I missed, like, the second half. I read the transcript, and while I was reading the transcript, I get to the part where the owner's like, oh, here, let me just dress down the lobby boy real quick. And I was like, oh, well, I do actually need to, I'm gonna listen to the rest of the episode because I need to hear him yell.
He yells, and it's great.
He yells. I like that they do the demon voice distortion towards the end of him yelling, and Robert Watson is like, what hell is this where the demons are not safe from one another? Literally just the customer service industry, bud.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. That's just how it is when you work in a hotel.
That's literally just how it is when you work in a hotel.
Robert Watson's there. Oh.
Robert Watson is there.
Robert Watson is there. And then when the owner, is chewing out the lobby boy and the manager cuts through it. And I love that she doesn't yell, she doesn't raise her voice. It's just a very simple, that's enough. You gotta stop.
That's a
We
running
have a
thing with
guest.
her.
That's a running thing.
As I recall, it's intentional. She's a fully realized creation. She doesn't need to yell.
She doesn't need to yell. She's got full authority in her lobby. He's causing a scene and upsetting the guest. Manager mode, activate.
I mean, is she not always in manager mode just by virtue
She
of
is
her
always in
existence?
Yes.
It is so much. I love how commanding the manager is. This is something I really adore about her character, in that she is an incredibly commanding and cool, in a cool and calm sense, where she can just say something and everything will stop. And I really like that aspect of her character. I think it's so cool, and she is just like, because it would be so easy to have her written in such a way that she was more in the background and that she just held down the desk and didn't really get involved. But no, if you make a fucking scene in her lobby, she will say 2 words and you will shut up.
And we do get from the owner when he pulls Bob into the ballroom and throws the glass in. I like calling him Bob.
Yeah,
And
calling
throws the
him Bob
glass
is
in
a
his
habit
face
that's
and
really
all.
hard to break. He's like a brother to me.
He's like a brother to me. There's something to the thesis that we kind of established. I'm saying we, that Jay established, that I very much agree with and that I don't want to speak for Niall on, but I think I begin to understand these guests in this place, this hotel. Breaking the human mind, their will, their sanity, is not something to be done and finished. Again and again they break, like these glasses, like this room with the bloody hands of Robert Watson. The idea that he's starting to get kind of what the interplay is between the hotel and the guests, that previously he would go along with it, he would make sure that it runs smoothly, but now there's a flicker of understanding starting to go on, starting to light up in his head, where he's like, aha, okay.
Oh.
This is a place to shatter people, not just physically, but mentally as well.
Mr. Some Basic Torture.
Mr. Some Basic Torture, you're not thinking broadly enough, Mr. Man. You gotta open your mind to some more horrific shit.
We talk about this guy like a dog.
He's our purse dog.
He's our little guy. Ooh. So 4-6 marks exactly the first third of season 4. So if we're going to organize this, and it could be, season 4 could be very, very neatly organized into a 3-act structure, and 4-6 would be that turning point where the owner, like, something in his brain clicks with regard to how the hotel is run in terms of breaking the guests into hundreds of tiny little shards.
Ooh, his little realization moment.
I love them.
Yeah, I think it's a really well structured season as well, with the, like, your turning point comes at the first third. You kind of have these moments where you can, if you had it laid out in front of you, you could stick pins in places to go, okay, so here's where this starts to turn, here's where this theme becomes more clear, here's an argument being made, etc., etc. I think it's really well laid out for that reason. It feels very much more crafted than the other seasons, and I say that in the sense of, like, there's more intentionality in it. It feels like there's more of a, this is what I want to do, I'm gonna lay this out and make sure it happens kind of thing. I like past seasons and the way they work, but this one feels very more pointed, I guess I would say.
Yeah, it does feel like there is a different structure going on, like a change in format. And of course there have been changes in format in, like, what you're being presented with in the seasons. They're all very different, but it does feel like this one has a little something to do with, like, how things want to be put across changes a little bit.
They put a little extra in there. They put a little hot sauce on that bad boy.
It's a treat.
Yeah.
It's a treat.
It is a treat.
It's where season 4 really starts to pick up, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think season 4 is a bit like an apple on an apple core is spinning round, and the core starts to twirl and envelop into something bigger and twisty around the apple, and this is the point where that really starts to happen.
Oh, why don't we start on 4-7?
Yeah.
I wanted to say something one more about.
Yeah.
5,
go for it.
4-6. I love the outro to 4-6 so much.
Yes.
So much. So much. This man, I just picture him being tossed around like a worm on a string while the hotel like monologues at him as he dies to death. As his brain presumably shatters trying to comprehend her in her entirety. She's just like, damn, could you fucking stop screaming? I don't know. I like her, she causes issues on purpose.
She does.
She talks in a later episode about how she has to shift herself and reduce herself and elevate the owner in order to talk to him directly. And he's like a creation of her. He's able to comprehend the horrors. What the hell is Robert Watson seeing as he's like, you know, writhing in agony and now suddenly being fucking beamed with the hotel in high def?
This is what Enlacing by Clipping is about.
This is what Enlacing by Clipping is about.
Literally.
Yeah, that's literally what happens in the song. That's not even a joke. It's not even a joke. It's literally just what the song's about.
It is just the, you know, the epitome of eldritch horror, where it's like the knowledge of a being so unknowable, it just breaks your mind into funny little pieces of sludge. Like, how can you look upon her? If she's that, like, you know, that even the owner, a creature made from one, you know, part of her, one of her little shining lights, can't quite comprehend her in her full form. What does that do to just a guy? What does that do to Bob? Nothing good.
Can't be good, but could be very funny.
Yeah, that's all I've got to say about 4-6.
Bravo! Thank you for your onions. We should head to 4-7 now.
This one's funny because in 4-2, the hotel was like, what if I put him in the supply closet with the lobby boy? And then she did. But there wasn't even a supply closet. He's just in the crawl space back there.
Wall. He was naughty.
Bad and naughty owners get sent to the wall to atone for their crimes. He's so mad about it.
He's so fucking mad.
It is just like, the hotel's just like, hey, just so you know, you're the owner in go in the wall.
Oh, and they're cozy in this one. This is the one where they're cozy.
This is the one where they're cozy.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. This is the episode where I wanted to... I don't have many thoughts on this episode's death. I don't have many thoughts on this episode's guest. But I do have thoughts on the names.
Oh, yeah! Their names are bleeped out.
They're not just bleeped out. They're garbled. It's the vague notion of human speech. There was a name there. There probably is a name there. But neither we nor the manager, presumably the rest of the staff, are given the privilege of hearing them. They don't need identities.
He doesn't want them getting ideas.
They're plastered on for the guest's sake, for the sake of the charade. They don't need anything that could be used to conceivably set them apart from the hotel as an entity.
They're only allowed to have so much, like, personhood. She's not allowing them to be, you know, she's like, now don't you get any ideas? You're not a person.
They can be autonomous, but they don't have any upwards mobility.
Yep.
Stay in the dark.
Stay in the fucking dark. If you see a staff member trying to evolve, push them right back in.
You had your chance.
You had your chance.
It again plays into the thing about perception, I think, with like, yeah, the hotel very much does control the perception of anything going on, and also sometimes perception doesn't work the way you think it does.
I don't have many strong thoughts on Dorothy Rennup. It's not an episode I have very many thoughts on, besides the lore implications of the names being bleeped out.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where when listening to it in a re-listen or even at the original time, I'm still so, like, scrambled from New Year's that I forget little bits of it because I'm still just, like, lying in the aftermath sort of thing. And it is still a very good episode, do not get me wrong. There is not a single death episode. This season is really good. But it is, like, I'm still like, oh my god, I've been blasted by New Year's and I'm just lying on the floor.
Even if I, like, take a break between New Year's and Dorothy Rennup, I think I've just yet to dissect it properly, because there's a lot of, like, fun implications here. I kind of picture the shadows as being very mosquito-esque.
Ooh.
But I don't have a lot of thoughts on the death itself, and this is an episode I still need to piece together.
Yeah,
I'm
one
still
that
working
needs to
on
be
it.
pulled apart. It's on the table. You've got it like pinned.
It's literally pinned. I devote like too much brain power to Judy Blashy. I haven't focused on 4-7. Ibis, are you still there?
I am still here.
Okay, let's move on to AJ, Taylor, and Wayne.
It's Dudes Rock time!
Dudes rock, dudes rock, dudes rock.
It's Dudes Rock time.
I love AJ Taylor and Wayne. I love AJ Taylor and Wayne. I love AJ Taylor and Wayne. Remember, when you were doing MS Paint requests, I came up to you and I said, Ibis, can you draw me AJ Taylor and Wayne?
I love them.
They're my favoriteest, bestest boys. They're so special to me.
They're fantastic. I love them as guests. They, of course, are very near and dear to my heart. This episode I have re-listened to more than any other episode for other reasons. We know this about me. We understand this about me.
If you only could.
If you only could understand. I'll be 100%.
That it doesn't hurt me?
Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me? Do you want to know about the deal I'm making?
Do you want to feel that I feel? I'm messing up the lyrics, but
it's close enough.
That's what everyone remembers this episode for.
And they're wrong too, because there's so much more in it, and also a Jesus Christ Superstar reference, which is way more interesting.
Yeah, you're really into JCS. I'm the guy who doesn't like musicals.
Hey, no shit. I'm not kidding. On Tuesday, I'm going to go see Jesus Christ Superstar in a theater, and Ted Neely's going to be there.
That's gonna be fucking awesome.
I like so Jesus Christ Superstar.
I don't know anything about it. I would be happy to hear you info dump to me after we're done recording.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to hear about it.
This episode put the hotel owner seeds in my brain. They didn't fully bloom until 4:13, but they were in there. They were in there, and they were kicking around. I
remember the months you spent saying, I don't ship them, but...
I don't ship them, but...
Now you're like the chief Honer Crusader.
There's a badge. I have a badge. I don't actually have a badge. I realized that we frequently mention things that we actually have, so I want to make it clear that I don't actually have a badge, but I might make one.
I actually have a desk bell. It's sitting here right now in front of me.
Ding it, coward.
I can't ding it because it's so loud that it will peak on my mic. It's a really loud desk bell.
The ending of the episode in the transcript, I'm jumping all the way to the end here, where they say...
Cuddled up on the couch.
She sighs contentedly as though they're snuggled up on the couch. Shut up. Leave me alone. Nobody touch me. Nobody talk to me. Nobody look at me. Fuck. The whole... he's flying around the hotel this whole time. He's trying to comprehend the signals that she's giving him, and he can't because he doesn't understand it because he's wrapped up in his own shit.
And also, hotel body language is a bit hard to read.
Hotel body language is a bit hard to read.
Unless you're me.
That's understandable, right? That he's not getting it. Because it's not like we're getting it either. What, the fire escape appears to rattle? What the hell does that mean? Nobody knows. She does. And Niall does.
I'm an expert in these things. I've studied hotels in the wild for years.
And then we get it from her point of view, and she's like, this is affection that she's showing him. She's saying, I see you, I hear you, I see that you're upset, that you're a little aggravated, that things aren't going well for you lately, and you're not feeling good, and I know, sweetheart, and I'm doing this to comfort you.
Do it work?
Yeah.
It's
when
so
she's
good.
like, her voice is so caring, like the love is like palpable. When she says like, oh, he puts his little hand on my side. Oh my god, shut up, leave me alone, I'm gonna explode. This is a really good episode.
For you.
It's also just a good episode outside of any shipping stuff, I want to say. Even before I was, into them as a couple. I love this episode because of all of the infinite hotel stretching up into forever and them having to climb the stairs.
What a fine mental image.
I just realized I'm super dominating the conversation here.
You're allowed to. You're saying a lot
really
of good
strong
things.
feelings on this episode.
This is my favorite episode. I'm comfortable saying that. Other episodes are really, really good. This is my favorite.
This episode is the one that planted the seeds of a ship within me as well.
Oh ho.
I like to pretend that I am, like, completely ambivalent on the shipping side of the hotel fandom. I like to pretend that I have no stake in any ship whatsoever. I just idly consume content and reblog what I like, retweet. I use Twitter for this. I don't really use Tumblr anymore. I just say reblog on muscle memory.
There's
But
not much of a fandom for it on Tumblr. I'm trying.
I don't even use Tumblr. I have a blog. It's at 8foot. You can follow me, I suppose. But
Get that plug.
It's I like to pretend that I don't care about shipping, which I normally don't. Shipping isn't my thing in any given fandom. I don't really care about metatextually analyzing the relationships of characters that don't have relationships within the canon usually. There was this one show it happened with a while back where I was championing a rare pair for a while, and I actually got some people in on it. But this episode, 4-8, AJ Taylor and Wayne, is what started my manager hotel kick.
Yay!
And you know how it's gone ever since.
Pretty normal, I would say.
You know what happened. You saw it live. I went from I don't care about shipping, it's the last thing on my mind in any given fandom, to I am going to analyze everything these women say.
As an aside, dear listeners, we do have a channel in the Discord titled Manager Hotel Conspiracy that is full of transcript screenshots.
They're all me. They're all me.
I think I did one.
You did one, but that was like it was from the Halloween special that I didn't
When
listen
they
to.
say Happy Halloween in unison and they laugh.
Aww.
I think it's cute.
Sigh, twirls hair. I want them to collapse into a big cartoon dust ball of violence, but in like a gay women way. I want the the sword tilt of the chin. You don't know how bad I need it.
The dueling scene from the favorite, not dueling, sorry, it's a pistol scene.
There's also, in the second half of the episode, when we get to the hotel, there's something that I really love, and I think I've also talked about this, like, on Twitter before, the tragedy aspect of it. The hotel gives this really fantastic explanation of why tragedy is enjoyable, why I enjoy tragedy. Here's the really sweet part, though. The guest's friends drop the bags and carry him. I'm gonna skip up a little more. They leave him behind eventually. I can see the owner feels some kind of satisfaction at this. I gotta say it's a little disappointing. Doesn't he understand that for the guests, the pain, the break, the death is all inevitable? Ice melts in the fire. It's nothing to be smug about. Does he consider how long they sat with him before they trod on? Does he know how much it pained them to do so? And after a few more heartbeats, does he even notice that the guest then tries to crawl up the stairs? The texture is often more important than the shape. But does he see that? Tisk. Yeah, that's it. Because the end is inevitable and it's coming for you and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's something you have to just accept or not, because what you do on the way to the end is what matters. That's everything. That's the whole thing. The texture of it is what matters. That's why I love tragedy, and that's why I love this episode.
I could actually, to call back to Dorothy Rennup, the texture explanation is actually applicable to, like, every episode. If we really consider the way the guests react to their deaths, do they fight it? Do they fight back? Do they even notice they're dying? Do they even care? Are they complicit? Are they enjoying it, God forbid?
Harold Pike, you freak.
You freak of nature. God, she's so right about so many things.
She's so right about so many things. It's the thesis of it all, if you will.
This was a very funny episode to listen to while playing Splatoon.
I would imagine so. And then, of course, "Oh, that man of mine," she says, and I grit my teeth so hard they crack and go, "I don't ship it."
Okay,
but...
manager. Try me.
The thing as well with like that tragedy piece and talking about the way the three men react when all this is happening, I think again ties into all of the staff, including the hotel, trying to look at emotions and relationships. And you've got the owner in this voyeuristic role of literally actually watching and being like, why are they like this? Why are they doing this? And you've got her talking about it as well and being like, he doesn't see it, he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand, the texture of it. He doesn't see it. Which again ties into, I think, the theme this season about, like, the staff and these horror concepts trying to comprehend connection and relationships. And it's so good. This episode is so, so, so good. Like, the fact it gives you... This episode takes a tragedy that you would see play out in, like... For example, if you happen to be watching a TV show about an Arctic disaster, watch AMC's The Terror Season 1, by the way. It takes all of that. It takes all of the humanity from that and what happens when, like, you are put in a situation of survival and do you leave your friends behind or take them with, and the struggle of that. It takes all of that and puts it into one episode, and it is so good.
I'm going to bite sheet metal in half. It's literally slight spoilers for the Terror 2018 Season 1, you should watch it, when they're hauling the boats across land and Fitzjames falls because scurvy is opening his wounds again, and they put him in the boat and are pulling him along, and he's trying to, like, argue with Crozier about whether or not he can go on. And they take him along.
AMC's The Terror Season 1.
My beloved.
I was like dissociating
God
the
loves
entire...
them. It's about what you do on the way.
Yes! The end is inevitable, but it is about the humanity of how you react on the way. AJ Taylor and fucking Wayne.
AJ Taylor
and Wayne!
And the earlier part of the episode when the owner is talking about how they relate to one another, and how it is Taylor who's the one who's kind of distant from the other two, who feels that, like, loneliness within him even when he's together with his best friends in the whole wide world. I don't know if it's implied which one of them hurts his foot. I imagine it's Taylor. That's my little headcanon.
Yeah.
And in that moment when the other two carry him up the stairs, he has the realization of, oh, I wasn't alone. They were here for me. And then they have to leave him behind, and he tries to crawl after them. I'm gonna go lie face down in bed for a couple hours.
And the fact that
Taylor and Wayne.
The fact that this theme comes up of being lonely even when you are with the people who you have in the world, like your closest people, the fact that this comes up in an owner-centric episode is not a coincidence. It is directly about the fact the owner cannot connect to the staff properly. He is on the outside, even though these are his, like, family in the closest sense that the staff have. And that is a root cause of stuff that I will definitely get into in part 2 of the season 4 discussion.
Destruction.
Of, like, the season 4 destruction. I am putting this in my jaws and tearing it to pieces. This is, like, a key piece of his character in this season. His frustrations and, like, everything that's going wrong for him is because he is disconnected and he can't connect because of the way he is. Sigh.
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 It is not a coincidence there are 3 of them. It is not a coincidence there are 3 of them and there are 3 staff members.
The hotel is this whole season just holding up a mirror to the staff and going, look!
Hey, look, it's you! This is when you hold your pet up to a mirror and go, are you capable of recognizing your reflection?
And they are freaked out because they're like, what is that?
And who is that other dog?
Your flaws, recognize yourself in the other immediately!
Where did he come from?
Are we ready to move on to Mr. Platt?
I'm never ready to move on from 4.8. Let me actually think. I don't know if there is anything else. Oh, yes, actually, I do want to just touch briefly on the Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, I'd love for you. I'd love it if you did that. Comprehensible human noises.
The line that he has is, the he has a look you very rarely find, the haunted kind, which is from Pilot's Dream, I believe, where he has like the vision of Jesus, and then wakes up and is like, that was fucked up. What's going on there? And this is also the Jesus Christ Superstar song that's on the owner's playlist is Pilot and Christ, which is fascinating because this puts the owner as Pilot, in line with this, and then also it's Pilot's pretty much singing the whole thing. There's a couple of interjections here and there, but the first lines of the song are, "Who is this broken man cluttering up my hallway?" So yeah, that's the owner. He's talking about the lobby boy. He's talking about the lobby boy. The lobby boy is Jesus?
I think the lobby boy is Jesus.
Call that stigmata?
He's the son of God. Did you ever think about it that way? Did you ever think about it that way?
It's a very interesting kind of setup to have him. Like, I like Jesus Christ Superstar because the songs are good. I don't know anything about Christianity. I'm sure there's some kind of biblical digs I could be making here. I'm too pretty for that, so. I like that the owner has a line like, I leave the staff to its now useless lobby business. He's like, ha, now you guys have no purpose.
Joke's on you.
Gone.
You don't have a purpose either. Stupid boy.
I think that's all I have to say about 4-8. Mr. Platt.
Mr. Platt.
What's up with the uniforms in Mr. Platt?
They're slaying, okay? You wouldn't know slay if it slayed you.
Okay, so they establish in this season the reservation card thing. The owner writes the reservation cards, he gives them to the manager, she uses them to conduct the thing with the guest. He gives her the world's shittiest reservation card. He's just being a prick.
They introduce a, aspect of the character dynamic, and then they immediately use it to make them beef.
It's so funny.
I love their stupid little sibling dynamic.
Their stupid little sibling dynamic, where they're like, I hate you so much. Oh, I'm gonna give you this stupid card. You want your card? Here, it sucks. Okay, asshole. I'm gonna summon the lobby boy.
She's so mad, and I love it. I love it when she gets mad.
He shows up and she's about to ding the bell and he's like, I don't see a guest. And she's like, I don't see a reservation card.
It's so funny that these beings who do, like you say, deal in death and dole out death, when they have a disagreement and they don't like each other, they just act like petty siblings.
They're so petty.
They should just throw rocks at each other. It would make things a lot easier.
She's trying to explode him with her mind.
I like it when she cracks her own teeth. My favorite thing she does. It'll grow back.
Eventually.
She's got a couple rows.
He's gonna hit her with a loser says what, and she's gonna jump that desk and bite him.
I know she has sharp little needle teeth. She's got pharyngeal jaws.
Oh, just own a voice hotel. She's biting me again.
Madam, she's tearing the suit.
She's off there filing her nails.
She's not listening. She's like, oh, they'll sort it out.
She's busy. Busy woman.
On a more serious note, I like that this episode kind of establishes another thing about the manager's power set or the way she operates, where she doesn't appear to be able to leave the lobby. Like when the hotel has a parking lot and bungalows that the lobby boy and the owner can go out into, but the manager, even though she clearly wants to get in the middle of the owner and the lobby boy so that the owner can't get the lobby boy, she's just standing at the door and staring, because she can't go out there. She can't leave the lobby. I don't think we've ever even seen her go up to a room. She has ultimate power within her lobby and no ability to leave, is how I read it. Again, I'm cognizant that these are headcanons, this is all interpretation, but I like to interpret that way because That's fascinating.
I have
So
words.
she's like standing there stewing. She's so mad.
I
Say
have
your words.
thoughts.
Say your funny thoughts.
4.5. The manager spent hours familiarizing herself with the hotel's new form. I actually interpreted that as she did a little bit exploring.
Okay, so she could go into other rooms. We don't really see her do that, but she could do it.
I like to interpret it as she can leave the lobby, but she just doesn't. That's her comfort zone. That's where she has power. And we all know how she gets without it.
She doesn't like not having her lobby.
She needs to be in control at all times, or she'll shatter like glass. She's funny.
She is, and I do like that, like, thing to do with power, which I think does contrast the owner really nicely, where they're both beings who do need power, but it's, like, in a slightly different way. And I think that's where a lot of their struggle to get along is, because they both want to be in control of something. The manager wants to be in control of her space, and, like, this little kingdom she has, you know, in the form of the lobby. She wants things to go smooth. The owner wants to be in charge of everything. And he wants to be in charge of this space also. And she's just like, hey, no, you don't get to. You can't. This is mine. This is mine. And he's like, well, what if it was mine as well? They're siblings. They're arguing.
They have to share the last slice of cake, and they don't want to.
Yeah.
I love the amount of relationship development that takes place within this episode.
Yeah.
In the long stretch at the end of the owner, trying to empathize with the guest, which is, this has been building up. This is his, thing this season. His thing is empathy.
Learning empathy.
Yeah.
Or trying to.
This deeply, deeply issue-filled man.
It is like he's gone, oh, none of you get me, at like the staff and people around me. He's like, no one understands, no one gets me. In this almost like youthful, naive kind of way. A bit like you know when you're a teenager, it's like in that sense. This is the teenage level of growth for the staff. They're in their awkward phase, and he's going through his nobody understands me phase. And he's exploring that by trying to understand other people, by looking at the guests and being like, are you like me? Do I understand you and therefore you understand me? No. Like, there's a lot of that going on with him where he is exploring empathy and what it is to be the same or different. And it's very fascinating that this big bird man is doing this.
Nobody care me.
I'm alone. Nobody care me.
I care him.
I care him. To a degree. He is not my favorite. I say he is not my favorite as if I actively dislike him. Ew, oh god, imagine that.
Imagine not liking the owner. Could not be me.
Imagine actively disliking a single character from the hotel.
They're all so good.
It's really funny. Whenever we talk about like favorite characters we have, it is with the thing that everyone listening to this has to understand. We love every character. We just sometimes pick favorites that are like a level above love.
I love the manager. I would commit war crimes for the hotel. I would do wretched things.
I think I say a lot of mean things about the lobby boy, but he's very dear to me.
I am staff material. I should be hired instantly. I would gladly rot and be reborn, if only to work under her guiding hand. Please, I'm asking nicely.
You may have issues.
You should kiss me.
Yeah, this is an interesting episode. I especially like that the owner is so concerned about getting the first-hand look with the guest, and that he is kind of the way I wanted to phrase it is bullying the lobby boy a little bit. He's kind of always bullying the lobby boy, but he does very much have the chance to go a little bit apeshit on him. Like he's right up there with him. And the manager does not appear to be leaving the lobby. And the hotel isn't even in this episode. I mean, she's always here, but she's not interjecting in any kind of way, as far as I recall. He kind of has this opportunity with the lobby boy to kind of fuck him up, and he passes on it. I
doesn't
think
go
it's
for it.
interesting. He doesn't go for it.
It's
He's like,
intriguing.
another time, maybe.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like, I'm above this.
I'll
And it's
see
like,
you
no,
in
you're
3
not.
episodes. I like all the coffee. He drinks so much coffee.
No, you drink so much coffee.
He just chugs so much coffee. Bad coffee. It's like, bad fucking coffee. I'm gonna keep drinking it.
Opposite of good soup.
Opposite of good soup. The manager has a really fun line. I guess I'm just going to read like at least one line per episode that I really, really enjoy. Like the standout one for me is right after the reservation, or not right after the reservation card, but when she's like soaking it to mush in her gross rotting hands. Bent, broken, or gone, it's mine though, for now. That's the way the hotel wants it. That's the way the hotel wants all of us, just as we are until we aren't. Perhaps that's what the owner struggles with. Perhaps he isn't testing me, perhaps he isn't even auditing right now, but he is watching. The empathy with the owner, the connection with him, the sort of, I guess now I see what's up with him. He's struggling. He's not just some asshole. I mean, let's be real. He is an asshole, and he doesn't need to do most of this. He's doing it because he wants to. But he is also not just some asshole doing stuff for the hell of it. He is also struggling with stuff and trying to resolve it within himself, and there's the recognition of it here from the manager. It's not like, oh, well, that explains it all, so now I'm not mad at him anymore. But it is like, so that's what's up with him. So that's what's wrong with him.
It's very much, I think for me as well, there is like a specific thing that comes across this season to do with how sometimes when you understand someone a little bit more, you have more conflict. Because you're at that awkward point of understanding but not quite getting why yet. Like if someone you're fighting with, you suddenly understand their point of view. If anything, sometimes conflict escalates because you get more aggravated, and it's almost like that's what's going on in this season, and with like how antagonistic the owner is towards the manager in this one, and then with her having that moment, like you say, it's like, oh, he's not just some asshole doing this for no reason, and yet he's still doing it.
He does it recreationally. He doesn't necessarily believe in anything he does.
It's the thing of recognizing. It's the recognition that like they're all kind of struggling a little bit, and that they're all at each other's throats a little bit because of that this season. It's very good. They're very human in this season, despite not being, and also maybe not fully having a comprehension of what it is to be human.
They all go through it so much, and they're going through it together, and they're only starting to realize that they're going through it together, and that they could have each other in a supportive sense, and not so much in a tearing each other limb from limb sense.
They could have each other. Family. Unionization.
They should unionize.
Oh god, where's my staffer unionizing thing we did?
My staff M F M are unionizing.
Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole? I kill people.
No, she's the hotel. This is basic knowledge. Come on. This is basic shit. You should know this by now. This is season 4.
This is 101. Hotel 101. She's a hotel.
Hotel 101. She's a hotel. Sometimes she's a house. Your hotel for the night.
House if she wants to. Your hotel for the night. And I guess that's where we're gonna cut for part 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because this is a very long. We've been recording for 3 hours.
Yes.
Yes. This is a long season.
We must simply say something a little bit funny, haha, before we leave.
I want to talk about Nothing Can Kill That Which Glowers. Can I talk about?
Yes, please do. We need something to exit on.
Okay, I loved this episode so much. It really stood out for me in a way that's like hard to put together exactly, but the way the whole thing is constructed, it feels like this whole other story, this whole other world that we just get this glimpse into, that we're briefly crossing over with to have the owner walk around as this big monstery guy. But there are like these little things that are running around in the woods encouraging and leading him. I have a kind of sense that they lead him to kill the people in the house. With the manager and with the lobby boy in their episodes in the season, they can see the people in the house before they start going for them. They see them and it fills them with anger for one reason or another. They want to get in there and they want to kill. The owner's fine in his little dark cave until those lights tempt him out and then kind of guide him forward to reach there and kill. They remind him that he is looking for someone.
He's
And
perfectly
that's
happy
really
in his hole.
interesting. He was perfectly happy in his hole, and then the lights tempted him out and started to remind him of what he wanted. I like those little things. They're really freaky. I like how they feel like kind of an old style kind of fairy that are not just little guys with wings flitting around, but also like mischievous and malevolent creatures that have their own agenda and want to bend something to their own end, whether it be for fun or for some greater purpose. I love the visuals. I love that when he's underwater at the end, it's the same as when he's in the cave, and then the manager shows up and he realizes he's not a thing with 4 arms. He is the owner, and I'm me again.
You like that line, don't you?
I'll get it tattooed one of these days.
Oh god, you actually should. That would be awesome.
I actually should. I've wanted to get a quote from something tattooed for a while.
That's an awesome line to get tattooed, because, like, it's one you talk about a lot.
I talk about it a fair amount. That one and the orange, and there we go.
Yeah.
Means a lot to me.
You interpreted the fairies as like rabbit creatures, no?
Yes, because they have they're described with like really
long ears.
Furry. Well, the long ears and then the large furry feet that hide claws.
Yeah, I interpreted them as being very owl-esque.
Ooh, owl is another good one.
Like great horned owl head, but snowy owl talons. I'm normal.
Very cool.
I'm so normal about my animal motifs. I love animal motifs so much.
And it does kind of hit me in my heart a little bit that the manager finds the owner first. Like, she's not looking for him. Let's all be clear here. She was looking for the lobby boy. She accidentally found the owner, but she's not gonna leave him behind either. She's found him, and yeah, he is going to be helpful for finding the lobby boy because he has much more mobility within the void, but she could have left him there and kept going, and she didn't.
There is a thing to do with this as well in this episode, which is amazing to me, and is an incredible piece of character building, which builds off, actually, obviously, a lot of the stuff I've been talking about with the owner in this season 4, in that this episode is kind of where he's like, oh, no one's going to be looking for me, no one would want to find me, and then she does, and he's like, oh, I'm not alone. And it's not, like, all of a sudden, there is that moment where they're working together, and it's like, yes, you get it, Big Birdman, you get it! Finally!
He's had his revelation,
finally
he's had his breakthrough. They can work together.
There's been so much character building going on these past couple seasons. I love it.
Yeah, it's like no one would be looking for you because you burned those bridges, man. Have you considered reaching out? And then they are together in arms, working together, and it's like, yes, finally you get it.
And it's like, from the start of season 4, that would have been inconceivable.
Yes.
But the development that happens over the course of the season makes it the only thing that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, it is. It's the logical point to come after all of the development of the owner's character through, like, season 4 and onwards. Like, it's so important. The things that are going on with this character, he has gone from being, oh, he's just your boss, you know? He's the guy who's your boss, and he has developed over the seasons into something that's getting complex and human, and I love it.
God. Sighs, twirls hair, etc., etc.
I'm excited for Double Stuff October. This is so many episodes. Are you guys okay? Are y'all gonna be okay? Don't push yourselves too hard.
I'm gonna make sure they're not okay. I'm gonna make very sure of it.
You gonna make damn sure.
I'm like loading a gun.
No!
I've got like a bandolier strapped over my shoulder, Rambo style. I'm gonna make the cast have a hell of a month.
I hope they get sleep and rest and are proud of what they've made.
I hope they clench their jaws, don't drink the water for the next 24 hours. They got this.
Season 4, a good fucking season. I enjoy it. I re-listen to it frequently, and it really just makes me so happy every time.
My favorite season of the show. It's got so many moments I find myself returning to. It's got an episode that we didn't talk about this episode that I'm very excited for.
We're all really normal about the back half of season 4. I can't stress this enough. All three of us are normal people with normal lives who do not feel unfathomable emotion upon listening to, oh, I don't know, let me just toss one out there, 413, 412, 416.
What is she going to do with those three?
418 if you even care.
418 if you even care.
And I expect part 2 of this retrospective to be listenable and not just full of us making husky noises and going,
oh god, tune into part 2 where I might go off on an essay about masculinity to do with the owner. Uh-oh.
You go off on an essay about masculinity to do with the owner. I'm flying over there and I'm going to shake you.
I wish I could like go off on an essay about identity and 413 and draw interesting parallels to my favorite films, Perfect Blue, Us, Annihilation, to name a couple, but I'm not that smart.
Ooh. Neither am I just make shit up.
God,
well, I don't know when we're recording next, so you've got some time to practice.
Yeah.
We've got nothing but time here.
And pain.
And pain.
Yippee!
I'm sorry, the reference was right there. It was really easy to make.
Yes, I said that specifically. I was setting it up for you.
You're
and
my
then
best
you did
friend.
The sick, I don't know any basketball terms. I was gonna say layover, but I think that's the wrong, I don't think that's right.
I don't know anything about basketball either. You think I know things about basketball?
So yeah, oh, and we should sneak in a little bit. We found the hotel was really good. I enjoyed it. I liked the setup because it was like coming home. I've said a couple times I came up on like creepypasta, no sleep kind of style horror, and it was like, oh, this is everything. This is the foundations of that kind of shit. And then you get to throw these lovable teens into horror murder death.
Plus the owner, horror murder death.
The owner is absolutely sitting in the private office with his ear to the door, waiting for the perfect moment to make a dramatic entrance. And when Ren is like, I can talk to the owner and he'll let me go, he's like, yes, go, no!
Nothing good ever happens in the hotel.
And it's so, the guy was pissing off the manager, so she was like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna set him up to get absolutely murderized by the owner real quick. Can you take out the trash for me? Thank you. Okay. That's all the thoughts I have.
God. This show makes us so normal. We've been recording for almost 3 hours.
We're great at this. See.
Wait, shit. We forgot something.
What did we forget?
He's under the meat.